Roland Willits, Old Men's Stories.
Thank you, and yes. Well, visual artist is right into this show, isn't it? And speaking and listening is extremely powerful. And visual is extremely powerful. And I love all the media, all of our senses. If we can work with them, work with each one, work with listening, work with sight, man, we add value. Seeing. I thought about life and what were some of the wonderful times of seeing for me. Now, if you've heard in previous stories, you know that I'm from Minnesota, and we have terrible winters there, and we have snow, and we have these little lakes. And if you see a plane flying, it's usually way up in the air. Well, by turns of events in my life, I ended up flying. But this journey is about going down to the southernmost point in the United States, Key West, Florida. And they have a naval aviation airstrip there. And they have flight training. Well, this is about extremes in seeing. And I was in training, and it happened to be one of those times where it was really a slow process because the whole, what they say, the whole training thing got slowed down. So I got to spend an extra 2 months down in Key West. Now this was magic for me. Because there I was, a fella from Minnesota down, and I was surrounded by ocean. Not only ocean, but inside the ocean, they had all these fish that I had never seen, except in pictures. And I got to go diving. So I got to go down and see all these unique and wonderful fish. And the background, when you go underneath the water, is, coral and underseas and clear. Water in Minnesota is sometimes clear, but it isn't like the ocean. Well, I went from there over to the training station, and I would go flying in jets. Well, one of the cross experience in that time is all aviators were suited up. Guess what? We were suited up in space outfits, just like the astronaut. And they fitted me out, and I says, but I'm not going that high. Oh, you might. So they fitted us out. We had these things that zipped on and cranked on, and they fitted, each one of us got our own outfits. And I had that outfit, I must have carried that around for 25 years before it finally disappeared in one of the moves we took. But I had the whole thing, and you put it on, and then you had this hose that you hooked up into this small outfit that put air through it so you could breathe, that you walked around with, that ran on batteries. And then you plugged it in so you could breathe while you were sitting. And it was like, man, I am one of the astronauts. Whoa. So you looked out and you looked, and we flew what they call phantom jets. It was called F-4B. And in there, in Key West, it was especially designed for super high altitude flights. Now, when they go in these planes, they fill it up with aviation fuel. And normally you can fly, if you're careful, for a couple hours with tanks. Well, we got to experience there going as high as these planes would go. And we would go up and we would have tanks on for the extra fuel. And we would put it in what they call afterburner. And we would take off and we would try to go as high as we could. And it was really cool coming out to the plane in these space outfits and then plugging it in when we got inside the plane. And then we would go down the runway and we would put it in afterburner and that thing would just push us against the back of the seat. And our whole objective was to see as high as we could go. So there I was, a few days before, down at the bottom of the ocean. Now, I was going where all men are supposed to go. I was going to heaven. And we went up there, and basically, it got lighter and lighter and lighter as we went up. And all of a sudden, we made a big turn. And if you've ever heard of those planes called the Vomit Comet,
Yes.
well, we flew like that. We went way up. It just, next to space. I could just touch the top of the cockpit and I was in outer space. And 2 days before, I was at the bottom of the ocean. And I said, oh, what a miracle for a man that a year before, was sitting on truck docks loading freight.